All right, so today we're going to mix some colors. And I have been teaching on a color wheel, and that's great. But I thought we would do cool and warms today, and we would mix them kind of visually this way. I think that sometimes the wheel really confuses people. So we're going to start with our cool colors, which is Hansa Yellow Light, Quinacridone Rose, and phthalo blue. So these three are what we're mixing today. And by the way, if you want to try these colors, the cool and the warms from Daniel Smith, it's in the essentials kit, and there will be a link down below for that. It's what I teach my beginner class with. Now, if you have a situation like I do, and this particularly matters with yellow, where you've got smudgy stuff from something else, just take your brush, clean it off, no big deal. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make swatches. And by the way, I'm just using a Canson watercolor notebook. It's fine for exercises and sketching. I probably wouldn't use this for finished paintings. It's not 100% cotton, and eh, not my favorite. Um, our three primary colors: our Hansa Yellow Light, our Quinacridone Rose. I have way too much water in there. There we go. And phthalo blue. Now let's make our secondary colors. So, combination one is our Hansa Yellow and our Quinacridone Rose. And we're going to mix those in basically equal parts. So that's going to look like this. Okay. And then let's do the same for the Quinacridone Rose and the phthalo blue. Don't do what I just did. Rinse your brush before you put it in the palette. Okay, so now we have our secondary color here, our purple. And then we're going to mix our blue and our yellow together. And I'm going to put that secondary color up here. And just to remind myself where this color is coming from, I'm going to put my blue right here as well. What is that? That looks like it has some indigo in it. So let me just, it's next door, to it. So let me just throw a little fresh paint in there so that we don't get all messed up. All right. Just as a reminder why I have that color. Okay, so those are our secondary colors. Now let's start working with tertiary colors. Now I've got this green. Let's put a little bit more blue. I go here. And I just am taking one side of each pile here. All right, so I'm adding more yellow. But that looks more like this. Now we're going to do the same thing with our little orangey color. We're going to add more yellow to one side. And let me freshen up my water. So I always have a dump bucket and then fresh water and then my working water. And that prevents me from looking like, what are those, meerkats, when I'm working, just up and down, up and down. So same pile of paint on the other side. I'm just putting in some more of the quinacridone rose. And then we're going to do the same thing with the purple. When we're mixing paints, it's important to try to keep the paints in your wells kind of cleanish, or at least notice and pay attention. Um, and you don't go straight from here to here. You need to make sure that your water consistency is good. So this is the purple with more of the blue. And we can keep going in this manner, a little more blue, a little more green, but these are primary, secondary, and tertiary colors already. Now let's start playing with neutrals. And I will make a map, like maybe I'll do that now. So this one goes with this one, and then this one goes there, this one goes there. This one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes there, right? So kind of a mental map here, and it looks a little different than the wheel. It's more like a chart, I guess, but I'm hoping that kind of this makes more sense to some people. They've been struggling with doing the wheel. So now let's start talking about neutrals. Let's mix. I'm just gonna clean up my palette. So when you're mixing just small amounts like what I did just here, I will just clean it up with a wet wipe and no big deal. I'm not running around washing my palette constantly. So now we're going to do the same thing, but with all three of the colors combined. So this is our orangey color, right? And now we're mixing in our blue. Okay, so let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's put our mix right here. And it's gray, basically. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up little corners of this gray and we'll experiment, Okay, so what if we add some more yellow? Right? My brush isn't that clean, this is a strong color, but we'll be able to get the idea. So what if I add in more yellow? I'm going to get something that looks more like a really kind of earthy green. What if I add more of the rose? What about some more blue? Forgot to put the blue. Okay. And then you can do the same here too. You can mix these two together. And you can just keep going this way and going this way, but it's really a good thing if you're going to start your painting with primary colors to go ahead and start mixing them up, especially if you're not sure if what you're looking at is cool or warm. So let's combine these two and get this really cool blue here. So you can do so much with these three colors, right? So this one, okay. Now, of course, you could, I don't, you can just keep going and going and going, but this will give you a huge range. So with three colors, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 colors with no effort, right? And the nice thing about doing it with cool or warm primary colors is that you're going to get a very cohesive painting effortlessly. So these are cool. Okay, so let's move on and check out the warms. Okay, so we just checked out our cool primaries, and let's go ahead and move on doing our warm primaries. I know that it's still a little bit wet, but it doesn't matter. Yep, it's going to be all right. All right, so we're going to work with our warm primaries this time. Let me just clean this cool up here. All right. So let's start the same way we did before. I'm going to do Nude Ambush. Spiral Scarlet. And French Ultramarine. I love I love this whole palette. I use this maybe more than I do my cool palette. I'm just reminding myself that this is blue, and that's what I'm mixing with that. So let's start there. Let's start with about equal amounts of the French Ultramarine and the New Gamboge. And just, well, I just got a big old blob in there. Now my yellow is going to be green. Nope, see, there we go. And just wipe it off. Okay. All right. So this is our secondary color, our green here. I was doing a little project. I'm experimenting with light and paper, just experimenting. But I was using some plaster of Paris. And honestly, this was set behind me, but it got so much plaster of Paris dust in it. It's just gross. And so I've been working through it, but it does make for a big mess. So now I'm mixing the French ultramarine and the Pyrrole scarlet. And this is like, I need a little bit more scarlet in there. Nope, that was about it. Okay. So I'm just, I think that's a better swatch of it, but it's very dark. Okay. So let's add some more blue to that on this side. There we go. On this side, we're adding a little bit more red. I need to change my water and clean out my brush a little bit. Again, I've got my clean water ready to rock and roll, my working cup and my dump cup. Okay. So again, let's a little bit more here. Boop, boop. And the other way. And you can get any kinds of combinations in between these. I think it's just important, don't overthink this. You don't have to make your ratios perfect, right? This is not a science experiment. Here we go. It is an experiment. I suppose it could be. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Oh, for Pete's sakes. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science. We're just painting here. We're just making sure we know what we can do with our supplies. There we go. Ooh, isn't that lovely? And then, you can do all sorts of color combinations here. I know it looks like I have an extra. It's just that I thought my mix was so dark here that I needed to show it a little better. So let's mix all three of these colors together like we did the last time. We get like a really dark, almost foresty green with basically equal amounts. Let's try a little bit of yellow. And we get a lovely green, but it's also muted because we have a little bit of the red in there. So let's try this combo with more red. And we get a much more brown color. And then let's try this with the blue, with some more of the blue. And we get almost a viridian there. So much different swatch action as far as our color feeling goes. So again, we mixed yellow and blue to get the green, a little bit more of the yellow, a little bit more of the blue here. And again, the new gamboge, Pyrrole scarlet for orange, and then a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow. Again, with the Pyrrole French ultramarine there, and a little bit more blue, and a little bit more blue. Here, this is the combo of all three. Adding that gets that, adding that gets that, adding that gets that. Okay, so this is our warm palette. And then we can do any of these combinations. Now let's look at them side by side. I know one's upside down, the other's not, but it's so interesting how different these are. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope you learned a lot about color mixing, and please make sure and check out the color wheel exercise as well. And there is a link to that down in the description. And I will see you next week for another lesson.